Hello everyone, Burb here. Cygames has continued the trend of releasing double banners during peak Champions meeting season, so we have the camping banners in Taiki Shuttle and Measure of Dober camping releasing tonight. I'd like to go and talk about Taiki Shuttle today. I'll go over the banner real quick and then we'll get right into the character. If you're a Taiki Shuttle OG player and you have a little bit of cold feet, just know that this is the Taiki Shuttle that works on every single track that base Taiki Shuttle does not work on. This is the Oshi pick. She has a velocity ultimate. Base Taiki Shuttle only has an acceleration ultimate, so if it's mistimed, she gets no value from her ultimate. This Taiki Shuttle has a generalist late race speed ultimate, and you will get value from it on pretty much every single track that you have aptitude for. So as long as you can get that aptitude to A, you can run Taiki Shuttle on that map. As far as meta implications are concerned, I don't believe any character is a must pull in this game. However, she does have very good mile skills, and in the upcoming mile champions meetings that are coming up, she is a quite good option. But we are about to be in frontrunner meta, as well as Christmas Oguri meta is continuously going on, so she is not top meta by any means. As far as the character itself, let's get into it. Her aptitudes are the same as base Taiki. She is a turf and dirt track runner. You need one spark to get her dirt aptitude to A, and she can run in sprints and miles with her A aptitudes, and you can stretch her into medium, and it's not even that big of a deal because even if you're using 4 parents to get to medium A, you're going to have a good chance of getting medium S anyways. So you can stretch her into those 3 distances, as well as she is a natural pace chaser. You can use 4 parents to get her into late A. It's a little bit tough. If you're of that persuasion, you can try it. You most likely will be in position for your ultimate by the time 200 meter hits, which is when her ultimate timing is, and you can stretch her into front runner quite easily. However, just like base Taiki, she doesn't really work from first place. And so, it's because it's a velocity ultimate and not an acceleration ultimate. You don't really have the sort of scamming ability that base Taiki kind of has. That's why people were running it. You can't really go and get the third place 0.4 that you were getting by being the third place front runner like you were on base Taiki. So I think she is a pace chaser with perhaps a stretch into late surger if you're of that persuasion. As far as stat bonuses are concerned, she trades out her speed and wit bonus for power bonus, and I haven't done a suggested deck here because you can run pretty much any deck and you're going to be hitting the power button. You go speed wit, and your speed taps are going to amplify your power by 30%. You're basically going to be pressing speed, and if you have power bonus cards with speed, you're going to notice your power increases more than your speed. If you're running the guts build, hardest stat to generate is also power. That's why we run Ayabe Guts, is because power is the harder of the 2 stats to achieve. That's why we have a ton of power sparks on a lot of our characters. So pretty much any deck you build on her, you're going to get that power amplification. You may need a couple of speed sparks if you're not running like 3 speed, 2 wit, but it's quite powerful. Her unique, Joyful Voyage says if positioned towards the front with 200 meters remaining, increase velocity. Then if also positioned near the leading Umamusume, gather strength to move slightly forward. This is quite a simple ultimate with a brand new mechanic. Now, 200 meters is a snapshot ultimate. It's technically 201 to 199, but it effectively says that if you are at 200 meters, it checks the other conditions. If you meet them, you will proc your ultimate. If you do not meet them, you will not proc your ultimate. So you have to make sure that the other conditions are achieved. Now, her other condition is simply be between 2nd and 4th place for champions meetings. Of course, if you increase the size of the race, it's only 40% order rate, so it's 4th in champions meetings. So you can be in 2nd, in 3rd, or in 4th at this moment in time. If you are not in this, you will miss it and you will not proc your ultimate. But as a pace chaser, you should be at least in this position. Otherwise, her additional condition, which is not required for the proc, but rather to get the bonus, is to be within 2 lengths of the lead horse. This is the situations in which, as a pace chaser, you are winning, because if you're close to the lead horse at 200 meters, normally your natural speed will get you in front of them. And because you have essentially what is a triumphant pulse, you have a late race speed skill to help you do so. So these are very good situations for your horse to be in which you get some additional bonuses. And that additional bonus is, well, at normal, you have a 0.35 5-second ultimate, which is at base rate at 1.75 distance units. If you are able to get within 2 lengths to the leader, you have an additional 0.15 of current speed, which stacks on top post calculation to get a 0.5 5-second ultimate at 2.5 distance units. And if you notice what I said current speed and not target speed for that bonus 0.15. Normally, what happens in the late race is that your Umamusume goes and accelerates to its final speed. This is known as the acceleration zone, and it's kind of fluid based on the time where you start to the time where you reach that max speed. It starts at the start of the final leg, which happens at, I believe it's at sector 17 on every single track. Now, what's really happening is your target speed is being uncapped and goes towards your final speed based on your speed stat. And because your Uma is noticing its target speed is above its current speed, it tries to accelerate at the rate determined by its skills plus its base power. Okay? What current speed is that current speed just doesn't care where it's at. Normally, target speed increases at this point would be what's called eaten by the acceleration zone, because the target speed is still just above your current speed, so your Uma can only accelerate at the rate of your power and skills. But current speed instead just gives you the speed on top. It's a post calc, which means that it can happen in the Excel zone and you still get value from it. That is the power of it. That is why we are going to be getting more skills with current speed, especially in Japan in the coming years. Almost every velocity skill has a current speed component if it is a late race ultimate at that point. There's one additional thing that happens is that, hey, that current speed, if you technically do not reach max speed at this point, this is more useful for the inherit, you will maintain that current speed increase until you reach that max speed. So it acts as basically a speed carryover effect if the duration is not long enough at that point. Now, the thing is that the acceleration zone with this particular ultimate, because it is at 200 meters, mostly it will be a late race ultimate on most tracks except for sprints, but which we will talk about that. So like I said, we have a 0.55 second ultimate in effect because these two do stack for a 2.5 distance units ultimate, which for the first time on this channel is better than a Triumphant Pulse. You are 11% better than a Triumphant Pulse if you reach that bonus condition. Otherwise, you are at the standard rate of 80% of a Triumphant Pulse, 77%. Otherwise, the unique inherit, because this is technically a hybrid ultimate, is basically shredded. It is still a 0.15 with upside, so it's still completely usable. It has tri-pulse, essentially. Instead of 2nd through 5th, it's 2nd through 4th, which is perfectly fine, in my opinion, on most pace chasers. And basically, it gets removed all the way down to 0.555 distance units, even at the bonus. Otherwise, it's just the standard 0.45, which is 74% of a tri-pulse at best, or closer to 55% otherwise. So tri-pulse is still just a very good skill. Remember that it is still one of the best late race ultimates in the game. So that is why we compare it to it, is that if anything gets close to it, it must be a very good ultimate. Her career and events. If you're unaware of the Taiki Shuttle career, it's probably the easiest career in the game. It has it has basically a bunch of sprints and miles. The only thing that you may have trouble is if you do not have very good speed, which on this character, because you have power bonus, you may not have the best speed, but it is very late in senior year. You may not be able to get first place on the sprinter stakes on the first try with this character. However, otherwise, it's a very easy miler and sprinter career, and it's only 8 races, which is kind of important for those scenarios that coming up that basically are completely hostile to doing extra races. Her secret event gives you head-on, which is not necessarily that useful on this character, and because she has gold head-on, but you get All I've Got, which is a nice late race. It's basically mini tri-pulse, but it requires you to add 4 additional races, which most likely in Grand Live you are not going to be doing because you just want to train more. Kinko Sho, Mainichi Okan Sr., both are required for this. Takarazuka Keenan is required, and finally the Tenno Sho Autumn. If you do all 4 of these plus the Mile Championship in specifically the classic year, those other ones have to be in the senior year, you get these bonus speed stats, basically speed, power, guts plus 25, as well as those hints and some skill points. Her costume event is a charming event as well, which is very nice, and you get light as a feather, which is, I believe, a new sprinter skill. If you're in the front of the pack in the second half of the mid race, in the second half of the mid race, I believe, actually, you will get a speed increase. Now, this has a very high chance of actually going in speed carryovering. That's why it's so good in sprints. Shifting gears is 4 miles. It is just a top-bottom option as well. This is a costume event, and you still have Harvest Festival from base Taiki for Prepared to Pass as well. You also have a bonus boot up. I like to highlight these because Winning Ticket also has one, and this does actually help you quite a bit because these usually appear rather early in the career to really help you with that additional starting mood. Her innate skills: you get wet conditions, mild corners, and pace chaser corners. Good on pace chasers, good on miles. Simple as that, and good when the track is wet. For her gold skills, we've been talking about these skills quite a bit recently, Mile Maven and Neck and Neck. Now, Mile Maven is good on miles as the very best, pretty much the best early race gold skill in the game. If you are in the pace chaser or front runner position, it is basically the reason why people were going and rebuilding on Taiki Shuttle Speed, is because it was a good card with this gold skill. Now remember that it has a 30 to 35% chance of bricking because it has accumulate time 5, and in the current stage of the game, before second anniversary, it goes and can just go and proc at the timing equals 0, which means that it fails that 5-second condition because it's a random point in the early race. Neck and Neck is very useful on short tracks because it gives you near guaranteed value. It is basically like on your left for late surgers. It is a gamble acceleration. As the distance of the track gets longer, Neck and Neck gets less and less useful because it has a larger dead zone, because it is a 0.4, but that 0.4 needs to proc in the first couple seconds or else you are not going to get very much value. Okay, so when the late race is like 35, 40 seconds long, that Neck and Neck has like a 1 in 10 chance to actually give you value on those long tracks. And so Neck and Neck is a short and mile suggestion mainly from me. Now, it technically works in all 4, but it's more of a gamble. Her CM viability: I think people are kind of mischaracterizing her a bit in this. She is just a generalist Uma. She works in all tracks. She can get your aptitude up. At the very best, I guess, she's a tripulse. At the very worst, she is a Oguri Cap regular tripulse that is slightly worse, right? So it's perfectly fine, and its conditions are a little bit tighter in 2nd through 4th, but she should just work just like how Oguri Cap does, except you do not get any help in her gold skills. At least regular Oguri Cap has that has Nimble Navigator to help you as well. So you are building a clean slate in mediums and a near clear clean slate in sprints. But for the mile tracks coming up, you do get the bonus from the current speed that many late race characters do not in CM16. Because of how short this late race actually is, at even 200 meters, you probably aren't at full speed unless you hit a good 0.8 excel. And in this case, you still get some bonus to your bonus speed at this point due to that current speed increase that other characters do not have. But otherwise, on miles, you have the mile skills that you do. On sprints, you have the ultimate that gives you a little bit of a bonus. And then on mediums, let me grab a drink. On mediums, you get a clean slate to sort of build just like how you would build a stock pace chaser. So I think she's perfectly fine in your CMs if you wish to run her. Her affinity: one of the things that's a little tough about Taiki is that she really only has affinity with the milers. Now, you have Sakurabashino and you have Nishino Flower, which at least is basically the acceleration on miles and sprints that she will be running on Taiki Shuttle. But after that, it gets a little bit sparse. You have Chio and you have El Condor and Gold City and a lot of the mile prominent horses and the typical offenders, and specifically Marzensky she actually has very good affinity with, which is quite rare. But after that, it goes and it kind of drops a lot for most of your medium and long horses. So while her ultimate inherit is quite good and you can go and build, her inherit is like good enough, I would say, as like a grandparent to consider. It's still not as good as Tripulse. Don't like quote me on that, please. But you're going to just have trouble with the affinity compared to other characters in the mediums and longs, because those characters have a lot of base affinity that can just skyrocket through the use of making new track shared races. So in conclusion, like I said, this is the Taiki Shuttle to run when base Taiki doesn't work. It's really as simple as that. She has a generalist ultimate that is basically Triumphant Pulse, I would say, in the situations in which you are winning, if you're running her in the pace chaser position. Not really much else. This is quite a simple character, so I hope you enjoyed. So let's hop on the Taiki Shuttle and get camping. Burb out.